Salvador Dali, 1969. During the last years of my student life in Ireland, I twice made a pilgrimage to the area of Cadaqués and Figueres in the northeastern part of Spain to see the environment of the surrealist painter and writer Salvador Dali. I visited his home and studio and spoke with his caretaker and housekeeper, spending days soaking up the feel and presence of the landscape at Port Legat, from where the enormous amount of his best work had been conceived and developed. Dali himself was on both occasions in New York, and Gala, his wife, was in residence at her castle in another part of the locality. I've always had a great admiration for his work, and to this day continue to find it elevating and influential. It is a tragedy that in his last years of bad health, his works and the administration of his affairs had fallen into the hands of sharks and villains. As a fully paid-up member of the Dali Admiration Society, it was with nervous excitement that I received the news from Muff Winwood, Island A&R producer, that Nirvana had been invited to appear on a TV show in Paris called Improvisation on a Sunday Afternoon in July 1969. The concept of the program was a live performance interview with Dali, surrounded by props. The TV network schedule was open-ended, and the program might last 1 hour or maybe 3, depending on the mood and creative whims of its guest. The brief to our band was to arrive at 12 noon, set up our equipment in the studio, have 3 songs ready to perform live, including our single Rainbow Chaser, which was about to be released in France, and finally to look and sound as psychedelic as possible, which was an acceptable pop music description of being out of one's brains. That afternoon was and still is the high point of my performing days. To work in the same room with my Dali was an experience I will not forget. The show was out of this world in more ways than one. It happened in the largest studio of the TV station, and the floor plan and props were all set up to tease Dali's imagination. We were one of 4 bands, each in a corner of the room, who were to perform pop, jazz, experimental and North African traditional music all through the show. The cream of the Parisian society, artists, models, dancers and writers, were used as floaters to just wander around the room. On the walls hung gigantic prints of Mao, the late President John F. Kennedy, Marilyn Monroe and Picasso, and a large wooden cross with Christ wearing a velvet robe. There was also an antique oak table on which they placed a selection of the most expensive chocolates in beautiful gold boxes, and at the opposite end of the room was a sculpture in bronze of a picador. At its base were about 40 glass jars of paint and an assortment of brushes. At 2 o'clock the show started, live on air, although Dali had not yet arrived. The French anchorman whipped up the atmosphere in the room. The picture the French TV audience received in their homes was surely a bizarre addition to Sunday lunch. The 2 moving platform cameras freewheeled through the madness, and about 20 tension-filled minutes passed before Dali made his grand appearance, with 2 beautiful Bengalese tigers on a dual lead, and on each arm ravishing twin blonde girls of about 18 years of age. He was dressed in a bright red velvet suit and wore riding boots of dark red leather to match. His long silver hair and immaculate famous moustache groomed to perfection. At a glance he took in the whole room, and a buzz of excitement and relief that he had turned up rose from within the studio walls. Then the master went to work, and for 2 hours he improvised in words, a mixture of Spanish, French and broken English, and in actions that were mesmerizing to behold. To this day I regret the fact that I did not ask him to sign our paint-spattered cello and clothes, after he had sprayed us with black paint during our performance of Rainbow Chaser. Nobody would ever believe it if I said that Salvador Dali had painted my jacket. But somewhere in the vaults of Island Records Accounts Department there lies a copy of a letter from Muff Winwood to the French TV company, claiming damages and costs for the cleaning of the cello, property of Sylvia Schuster, now a principal cellist with the BBC Symphony Orchestra. I still have my painting on a jacket by Dali in my wardrobe of waterfalls.